so you returned for another tale. I like that. The Burning Moon Tales. Issue number 2 is finally out on the store counters. For only 75 cents, you get a terror tale of creeping shadows, blood-red skies, and nightmares that refuse to stay buried. Learn how the woods haunt night drivers, where every bend in the road hides something watching, waiting, breathing in the darkness. Beware the creepy shadows that stalk the woods, slipping between trees, circling closer with every heartbeat. The Blackrobe cult presents the Macabre encounter. When the moon burns, the dead awaken, and once you open these pages, there is no escape. But I am excited because I've been expecting you, my nocturnal listeners. The darkness offers ideal cover for the grisly happenings we hold near and dear to our wicked hearts. Take the tale I will present to you tonight. Two weary truckers stumble upon unspeakable horrors on a lonely stretch of highway. Your trucker's friend here warns you, saying, "All who are out on the still hours of the night, beware the darkness. Sometimes it bites back." The Macabre encounter. Some stories don't fade with time. They sink beneath it, buried where no one dares to dig. My father lived his life on endless stretches of asphalt, where the hum of the engine was as familiar as his own heartbeat. Driving wasn't just how he earned a living, it was who he was. He had crossed 1,000 highways, endured sleepless nights, and battled every storm the open road could hurl at him. Yet he knew too well that not every road belongs to the living, and some paths should never be followed. Of all the horrors he glimpsed through the rain-streaked windshield, this was the nightmare he vowed would die with him. It was on February 15th at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, when you hear the clutch of the big rig downshift and the engine roar loudly. My father spent decades on the road. When he drove at night, the mountains wrapped everything in darkness. He was never alone that night. His partner rode shotgun. They talked constantly, playing music to drown out the silence of the woods. It was another late delivery, another weary mile closer to dawn. Everything felt normal, except for the endless forest shadows lurking into the highway. A distant big rig comes flying in front of them at about 100 miles an hour on that curvy road, making them run off to the side immediately. Joseph slams on the brakes, making the tires skip. Jimmy shouts from his passenger seat, "Stop the truck!" Jimmy swings open his door. "What the hell is that? Is that what I think it is?" he yells. They sit there frightened and confused, staring at the darkness, trying to focus on a lurking shadow. A horrifying being is standing in the woods, just standing, watching them with what looks like some sort of blood dripping from its mouth. Human-like, but not really. They both get off their truck. "What is that? Looks like a sheep," Jimmy shouts. "What the hell?" Joseph is now paralyzed in fear. He can't move, and his eyes glaze at the being in front of him. "This is a freaking sheep with human hands and feet," Joseph mumbles out loud. Frozen in terror, the drivers beheld a monstrous beast with human hands and feet lurking in the woods. Blood drips from its mouth like it's been eating something unlike ever seen. Screams of horror fill the atmosphere in that wooded area that night. The human-handed sheep paid them no mind, tearing into its prey as the drivers screamed, forced to witness a nightmare no man should see. The big rig idles with the lights on that shines the beast devouring what looks like a human-like body. Suddenly, the sounds of footsteps pressing on leaves lurk loudly and loudly, shadows creeping in the woods. From a far, far distance, you see me with my oil lantern, your host LV watching, giving you a fair warning. I'd like to tell you this is the end of the story, but they're not done feeding yet. The shadowy silhouettes were nearby. Jimmy and Joseph felt them coming. The heavy steps sounded feet away. They ran for the truck, but those poor men never stood a chance. Before they could even reach the door, the figures emerged from the woods and dragged them screaming into the darkness, tearing their flesh from their bones. Screams of horror echoed in the woods. Somehow, someway, Joseph and Jimmy were able to jump in their truck and called the police. Bleeding and bitten all over their bodies, Jimmy gets through with the emergency operator. "Sir, try to stay calm and tell me exactly what happened so we can send help," the woman operator says calmly. Jimmy and Joseph see the beasts surrounding their big rig. Jimmy shouts on the phone, "Ma'am, you have to tell the police that there is some type of human-animal beings in these woods. They will devour anyone that stops in those roads. You gotta do something." Joseph finally called the police. They were shaken to the core as they described and tried to make sense of the nightmare they'd just witnessed. The words hardly seemed real as they tumbled out of their mouths. The police officer just stared at them in a laughing way, not believing them. The silhouettes were still out there in the woods, waiting for the right moment to attack again, as Jimmy remains on the phone with the operator. She tells him, "Sir, don't go spreading rumors. Just stay somewhere safe and wait for the detectives to arrive." The call cuts out, and all that remained was a silence that lingered as the first light of dawn broke over the woods. The police left in a hurry, kicking up dust as they tossed aside the information the truckers had given them. The detectives never arrived. Some things are just not meant to be believable, I suppose. The smell of blood lingers in the interior of the truck. The uncured cuts and flesh ripped out are unbearable to witness. Jimmy and Joseph collect themselves, looking quickly from left to right if anything was approaching. For a long time, there was only the rutted road beneath their bloody, trembling hands. Then they sped off in terror, as creatures burst from shadows swarming from every side and chasing the truck deep into the night. The night is bright, and the light of the full moon illuminates the mountains and roads where the shadows hide. They arrive at Jimmy's trailer home that is up in a cliff that oversees the windy road. Near a campfire, they cooked their meal and had hot cinnamon tea. Staring at the moonlight seemed peaceful in a way. They thought they left the horror behind, but that night, fear knocked on their door. 3:25 a.m. The only sound that is heard is from Jimmy's television that broadcasts the late-night programs. No hot tea or good movies can prepare you for a night of terror. Why do I say this? The evil has arrived. The moon hides its light from this demonic force. Sounds of crying beasts rise from all four corners of that trailer home. No one knew how they got in, or how quickly it ended. By the time the first light hit the porch, only the wind dared whisper their story, and the sheep humans, no longer shadows, were already hunting elsewhere. They look at the macabre and destruction they caused. They stare for a brief moment like if admiring it. Nobody escapes a nightmare and lives enough to tell it. Hours later, I noticed they dragged us outside. I was bleeding bad, the kind that makes the world tilt and slow. I hit the ground beside Jimmy, and in that heartbeat I knew he was already gone. Joseph lays there, face in the dirt, not a twitch in him, just blood spreading like a dark halo in the dust. Because if I moved, even once, I was dead. They circled us in that dead orange light, sniffing, listening, hunting. I think they believed we were both dead. I didn't survive because I was brave. I survived because I was still silent and impossibly lucky. Jimmy, I'm so sorry. The next time you find yourself traveling the roads through the woods, remember this vile tale. Beware what lurks in the shadows out there, flesh-eating beings beyond the understanding of man, waiting to feast on unwary visitors. Stay safe, my ghoulish brethren, for we want to be frightened, not devoured. Are you feeling hexed? Well, are you? Did you brush up against dark forces? Play this little crossword puzzle I left you here and enjoy the cursed stuffed teddy bear for only $6.66. And of course, I won't forget to hand out my personal coupon for $5 off on this ghoulish haunted house. that is only open for 3 hours, opens only at midnight. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and give a like to all my content. Don't forget my beloved followers every Friday at 12 a.m. I'm posting a new video on the release of a new issue of this comic horror magazine. You gotta collect them all. Till next time, my dear friends, this is your host LV. The Blackrobe cult is out.